Hello and welcome to the Service Above Self. I'm Clark Mason. You can't underestimate the importance that rivers have in building our great nation. But over the years, many rivers were abused, polluted, garbage put in them, destroying their natural beauty and really destroying the wildlife that live within them. So today, one of the big focuses that we have is restoring many of these rivers to their former beauty and health. To the people involved with doing that are Rex Joffrey and Pat Sharon from the Scantic River Watershed Association. Welcome, gentlemen, and thanks for coming out this afternoon.
Thanks, Clark. It's great to be here.
In the case of the river that you guys help out on, the Scantic River, this is a river that has a long history in this area. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Pat?
Okay, Scantic River enjoyed a lot of early industry in colonial times. The mouth of the Scantic, where it enters the Connecticut River, had one of the largest shipbuilding areas along the Connecticut River, was the largest. There were a lot of mills, popped up along the river utilizing the water power. There were tanneries, there was the gin mills for wool, not alcohol, lumber yards, things like this. They utilized the river, and a lot of smaller industries. So it's had a large native population of Indians, where it got its name from, the Scantucks. So the Hazard Powder Company, largest gunpowder company of its time, selling powder to the north and the south, but it was still a business. So it's enjoyed a large and varied history over a few hundred years.
Now, when the Scantic Watershed Association got started, what were some of the challenges that the organization had?
It was back in 1972 when the watershed formed. A group of concerned citizens got together. They were concerned about development that was coming along the Scantic River area. So they banded together and they were against the development. They were successful in fighting development along the Scantic, protecting and preserving the area. And the watershed was there for about 10 years, and they disbanded around 1982.
And was that primarily because the work that they originally set out to do had been completed, or?
That's correct. They had followed through with their mission.
And so some time later, you guys started the organization again.
Around 2002, the assets from the previous group were given to the Northern Connecticut Land Trust, which is a partners of ours, and it was reinstituted in 2002. In the last 8 years, our organization's grown considerably.
So what type of things does the Watershed Association do to protect and to restore the river?
We do cleanups along the river, pollution control, riverbank protection. We're advocates for the development, work with the planning and zoning, inland wetlands. We work with other conservation groups. Recreational activities, we do a lot of recreational activities along the river. Greenway development has been one of our most recent things, to make multi-use trails and protect the area, a greenway corridor along the Scantic.
So in the case of a greenway, what does a section of river have to do to be a greenway? What does that mean technically in this case? Is that something that the state of Connecticut sets up, or?
Yeah, the state DEP, it's a 1995 act, and a greenway is an area that protects natural resources along a waterway or a corridor of open space. And it also protects historic area along a place, and as well as recreational multi-use trails.
Okay, so that's sort of an interesting thing where you once had an area that was industrial used. In other words, the river provided water power for several types of mill use, and now it's been somewhat restored, much closer to the way it was originally, and just used for recreational purposes in and next to the river.
One of the most successful things about our Greenway project is the state, back in the late 60s, bought all these parcels of land called the Scantic Recreation Park. 100 some odd acres here or there, all along the Scantic. They kept buying parcels up, and the town bought parcels up. But nothing ever came to fruition with the Scantic State Park. And so what the Watershed is doing as a grassroots organization, we're going from section to section to put in multi-use trail systems and working with the towns on providing greenway trail systems.
That's very interesting. So what type of things do you guys have to do? You were talking about things like erosion protection. What types of things do you do as far as that's concerned?
Well, a good example is in the last year there was a proposal for a development called Villages on the Scantic, which they were proposing a development right on top of what we call terrace escarpments that are above the river over hard clay with a soft topsoil that could erode into the river. So we had an issue of the development there. So the Scantic participated, the watershed,
Quite a few meetings.
the inland wetlands, the zoning, and it was amazing how much we learned and worked with the Enfield Conservation Commission about this. So many problems that are around a watershed area. Stormwater runoff is a very big issue now, of all this impervious surfaces around the area flowing into the river.
And so what's the problem with stormwater runoff? I mean, it's just rainwater after all, isn't it? Or is there other problems that are
Not
associated?
when it's coming off impervious surfaces such as roads, driveways. You get the herbicides from lawns, pesticides, oil and grease from the roads, antifreeze. Now it becomes hazardous.
Oh, so therefore, that can then flow directly into the rivers and do the type of damage that those type of things can do, and so affect your wildlife, fish, birds, and things of that nature. So
Ultimately us.
yeah, that's for sure. So in the case of, that's certainly one concern about them putting in storm drains that would empty into the river. But the other thing you talked about was soil conservation with that. So what would the problem be with soil getting into the river?
A lot of sediment is not good for the ecology of the river. Sediment is very bad of changing the whole course of the river. And as well as the stormwater, when the stormwater heats up in the summertime, the Scantic is known for its cool water. This is good for trout and other kinds of fishes. So if you warm the water, put sediment in it, it's not good for the native population of fish.
Plus the sediment will cover various bottoms of the river. Like you have nice rocky riffle areas where certain fish will breed, certain insects will breed. The silt will get in, blanket all that, and eliminate the whole, diversification of wildlife there.
So the particular type of ecology that you
one
have.
link at a time, it'll eliminate it.
Right. So where the fish would lay their eggs no longer exists around the rocky areas like they would traditionally do that. You could either just cover it up and the fish either would go someplace else or just not breed at all, I guess would be what the risk would be. So that's an interesting thing. How about things like, I mean, traditionally rivers with industrial use, became very much like sewers. People chose to dispose of many different kinds of things into rivers. Is that a problem that you still see?
A lot smaller scale. When we produced the book, we physically walked the 38 miles of river in groups of 4 or 5 people. We took 2.5 to 3 mile sections. And we could see where like certain neighborhoods, people push things down out of sight, out of mind, over the edge of the property. They find a lawnmower. It's smaller scale. It's not industrial, so to speak, pollution, but it's still, you're identifying that people are not aware. Maybe they're not aware of what they're doing, or they are aware and don't think anyone else is. The old toys the kids no longer use get pushed over the edge, the embankment.
And I think that there's no harm that comes in that.
No, it's going somewhere.
Right.
It's going to go somewhere.
And so that's definitely going to.
And we all live downriver from somewhere.
Yeah, that's true enough. And so ultimately, we do run the risk of things from just a lawnmower. You've got a quarter oil on there that could eventually end up getting into the environment and messing with an aquifer and causing pollution and making it not something that can be drank. So that's certainly a problem.
And even on a smaller scale, well, now it's not so small, but non-indigenous species. So people bringing in nice plants for ornamental planting, like the purple loosestrife is the biggest problem now. Then it gets into a natural ecology and starts pushing out, your indigenous species. So you put the flowers on your property because they look nice, but they don't belong here. Then they start taking over and crowding out something else. Animals do the same thing.
That's certainly something that you hear about in many cases with lakes, for instance, where things like milfoil and things of that get into them. You have similar problems with non-indigenous species growing in the rivers themselves?
We do get a lot, mostly we get a lot in the watershed itself. You do get a lot of plants that are brought in, whether it's on aquatic birds or whatever. You still see some milfoil in the mill pond up in Summersville. Things that historically weren't there. I mean, some of it is going to occur by nature. I say a little piece on a bird's foot or whatever, or something hanging on a boat trailer when they back into the water. Look at the zebra mussel problem they have in the Great Lakes. I'm talking multi-million dollars to eradicate it because of a couple minor mistakes or somebody overlooked something. Now, if you catch something while it's still young and fresh, take care of the problem before it gets too big where nobody can finance it or know what to do with it. So we try and stay on top of all this.
Well, as far as the serious business is concerned, that's what you do. But the Watershed Association also provides some recreational activities as well. You talked about the building of hiking ways and things of that nature. But you guys also have kind of a big event that's typically in the spring. Could you tell us a little about that?
We are the hosts of the Scantic Spring Splash, which past March was its 19th annual canoe and kayak race. It is the largest downriver race in Connecticut. We brought in 155 boats, over 200 paddlers from 8 different states. And it brings in about 1,000 spectators along the river too. We run a 5-mile course through the historic Hazard Powder Company from Summersville to Powder Hollow. So it's an all-day good event. It's a continuing community event, as our mayor put it. We have the volunteer firemen come down, practice rescue or whatever. We've got the Boy Scouts down there, the police explorers. Everybody's involved in it. And it's really well received by the town. We collect food and funds for the food shelf. This year we collected over 500 pounds of food. We asked each paddler to bring something. We give them a discount off of their entry fee for the race. We fill up a canoe every year with food, and we made a $500 cash donation to the food shelf. So it's a lot of fun. Definitely enjoy it.
That's great. We're going to take a short break, guys, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at some photographs and things that they have of some of the events that the Scantic River Watershed Association does.
Making the world a better place is an intricate puzzle. And piece by piece, the women and men of Rotary have worked hard to fight hunger, promote literacy, and move the world toward peace. But there is still much to be done, still some missing pieces. And one of those missing pieces is you. Learn how you can help Rotary put together a better world at Rotary.org. Rotary, humanity in motion.
Because of them, 5 million people do not have polio. Because of them, families will not have to beg for a meal tonight. Because of them, thousands of high schoolers will never be known as dropouts. They are the 1.2 million members of Rotary, everyday people working together to push hope forward. Rotary, humanity in motion.
Welcome back to Service Above Self. We're speaking with Rex Joffrey and Pat Sharon about the efforts that they're putting into restoring and maintaining the Scantic River. Rex, you've got some photographs of some of the activities that you guys have been doing. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. I'd like to show you some of the beauty of the Scantic River. You'll see this is one of our most popular area in Enfield. It's called the Staircase Rapids. It's where the Powder Hollow area where the gunpowder was made back in the late 1800s. Again, we're very proud of how this river has come back. There's stories told in mid-century is that the pollution was so bad from the dyes that were thrown into the river that parents would see their children come back with red dyes on them. Very, very bad source of pollution. This is a photograph of our annual Source of the Sea cleanup, and that cleanup is the entire length of the Connecticut River. Every year the Scantic River Watershed, as Pat said, participates. We're one of the larger groups that goes in to help out. This is a barge of a lot of stuff that's been found along the Connecticut River riverbanks.
So it's pretty amazing to me that the kind of things that people will just throw into the river. I mean, that just shows you that even today, people haven't learned about what you need to do to have a good, healthy watercourse.
Yes, we find things like TVs, tires, tents. People live along the river and just leave trash all over the place. It appears they live or camp out there and really do not clean up after themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. That's a pretty hefty pile, and I'm sure it's only just a tiny bit of what gets collected on a day like that.
Pat has some of the data.
We've been participating in the 8 years that the Connecticut River Watershed Council has been doing the Source to the Sea cleanup. And Enfield area, mostly along the Connecticut River and parts of the Scantic, have collected almost 100 tons over 8 years.
Wow.
Our biggest years were maybe 15, 16 tons.
That's amazing.
Luckily, last year was only down to 2 point something, only 2 point something tons.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty, disgusting.
Oh, absolutely.
It is.
I mean, it's amazing that people do things like that, and
Yeah.
and yet it's such a good resource to enjoy when it's the way it's supposed to be.
Connecticut River's come a long way, even from when I was young. I mean, it's amazing.
But the Scantic River, we don't see as much of that anymore. Being stewards of the river in our Greenway project, volunteers, we're really out there, we're cleaning things up, and we believe the quality of the river is really in pretty good shape right now. Here's an example of before our greenway was put in trails. It was just overgrown with, this is the Scantic State Park, the DEP land that we're putting our greenways in. So it's a group of our volunteers. They're going out there and building multi-use trail systems. Exponentially, where you only see some fishermen go out there and a few people bushwhacking, now we see just hundreds of people on weekends. And when we have hikes, we have 30, 60 people on a hike. We've had up to 100 people on a hike in the Powder Hollow area.
No, that's pretty amazing, because that's quite an area that that complex used to encompass, and so it's probably interesting to see some of the history that goes on down in that area.
People are so happy to be able to go out and have a nice trail system. They can enjoy it, be along the river. It's beautiful, and the history and the nature and wildlife out there is spectacular. You have a town of Enfield, 40,000 people, and nobody was really enjoying this resource, and now they're getting to experience what's in their backyard.
Very good.
Here's an example that not only do we just work in the spring and warmer months, we're out there in our cross-country skiing doing some river cleanup. This we mentioned earlier, this is our wadable stream. We take water quality sampling using the macroinvertebrate study where we find the bugs. You kick some rocks, you put it into nets, and then you bring them back for identification. Good bugs means good water, and we're doing fairly well in our testing.
So that's kind of an interesting thing, is that different amounts of it's an indication of the health of the river.
Yes.
Then, so you can tell whether something's going on that maybe even you can't detect yet with water samples themselves.
And we keep annual records too, and we submit it to the state also, so the state can have the overall picture of how rivers in the state are doing. And you start with a baseline over the years, you can see, and it's been getting better. It has been getting better.
Most recently, we're going out to purchase some higher tech water quality testing. These data loggers that can test 10 different kinds of parameters on water: oxygen, sediment, different flow rates, and very sophisticated with a GPS, so you can take different samples up and down the river. We look forward to having that capability, so we really can monitor the river in a detailed and frequent basis.
What type of things are being indicated here in this photograph?
This photograph is one of the worst examples of trying to clear a path along the river. This all the logs that have come over from erosion, and you can see garbage collects in this area. These are the things that we carefully try to clean up with what the DEP allows us to cut little sections in. We don't want to disturb the fish and wildlife, but these are the kind of things you see in its worst case, log jams.
And we'll go out there on the weekend with volunteers, with boats, chainsaws, and cut out a 3 to 4 foot section as the DEP requests us to do. Leave the rest of the tree in the water. It filters out sediments, provides oxygen and shade. We just want to maintain a canoe and kayak trail through this, what looks like a mess.
Yeah, but just kind of
Yeah.
have a low.
While we're out there, we pick up the bottles and cans we see float down, throw them in the boat, bring them out with us. But I mean, it's a labor of love.
Right, just, in this case, just enough to get yourself a,
Yeah.
a water course, but not to affect it, the natural,
We get through with the kayaks and canoes.
natural course of the river itself.
Yeah.
Wow, that looks pretty exciting.
This is the annual Spring Splash Kayak and Canoe Race that Pat was mentioning. There is a great drop, a Class 2 drop. It's called the Stoker's Rapids. It's about a 4-foot drop. This gentleman's in a kayak, believe it or not. You can see part of the boat. This gal is no longer in a canoe. She's on her way out. The race is usually in the end of April?
End of March.
I'm sorry. End of March, and the temperature of the water.
Yeah, it could be anywhere from 34. This year was a warm one. We had 46-degree water.
Wow.
It was a warm one, but it's still cold enough to be hypothermic.
Yeah, I was going to say, you
But
don't want
we
to
get a
spend
lot of
time.
enthusiasts. We're on 2 different race circuits. We'll get semi-pros and we'll get amateurs.
And you said, how many people typically participate?
We had, this year, we had over 200 paddlers, 155 boats.
Wow.
I mean, some of them are the semi-pros that tour the circuit, the race circuit. Like a NASCAR driver will go to all the races. These guys tour New England. For them, it's nothing. For the amateurs, it's not a walk in the park.
There's a local division. There's, you have parents with their kids out there. It is just enjoyed by so many different people in the local community, and as Pat said, throughout New England. People come to this race over the years.
That's great.
Here's an example of last year's full moon paddle, which broke all-time records of, I think, anybody being in the Summersville Mill Pond. We had 200 boats in this mill pond. That is around 7 o'clock. We had a beautiful, beautiful harvest moon that came out. It was Labor Day weekend, and it was spectacular. It looked like an escalator, though. One way going up the river, there's all these boats, and they turned around at the end. And most enjoyably was a guy in his rowboat playing his accordion under the moonlight, which was just an amazing evening for us.
Well, and a couple we surprised. The guy was going to surprise his girlfriend by proposing to her. There's a little deck. He didn't know we were all going to be there that night. He wasn't a paddler. He said, no, this is okay. This is okay.
Of most importance, too, is that evening we were having our scholarship raffle in which Pat ran. We raffled off a kayak. We were able to make about $2,000 because of all the people who were there. We didn't know were coming. We're all very generous in donating to our scholarship. So things like that, our participation in events like that really help out our cause so we can carry out our mission.
Very good. So you certainly need some help in what you do, in the sense of monetary donations and people to help with the activities, either running the spring splash or cleanups that you have. If somebody wanted to lend a helping hand, who would they have to contact, or what would be the best way to get hold of the organization?
We have a website, the ScanticRiverWatershed.org, and we have email and contact information on our website. There's also events that are posted regularly in the Journal Enquirer, the Reminder Press, the Hartford Current.
Everything's open to the public, free of charge. We usually ask for a canned good donation for the food shelf. I always giving back something, but...
We love volunteers. We love membership, people that want to join our organization. There is a lot of fun things for youth, parents, anybody to get involved. Pretty exciting opportunities in our Greenway for helping us with our trail systems, river cleanups. There's a lot of things that we could use help from.
Any big projects on the horizon in the near future?
We have a program, Education and Outreach, where we're going to go to different schools. That is something we're putting together now. We're trying to get the community more involved in understanding the protection that's needed for the river and the water quality.
And we've been partnering with the Enfield Recreation Department, too. They contacted us about putting on various hikes and this and that, and inviting the general, we always invite general public anyway, but they will advertise it more with the Enfield Parks and Recreation Department. Try and get more people out there.
Are there, other than the hikes and the things like the Spring Splash, are there other activities that you guys get
We do
involved
paddle
with?
trips along the river. The river itself, paddle trips. Even on the Connecticut River, paddle trips, just to get people out in the area, enjoying the resources, whether it's just our own river or others.
We'll make a plug for June 5th. We have a hike down the Powder Hollow, where it's our 3rd annual. This is the one that's had up to 100 people. I don't know if we need any more people, but again, it's everybody enjoys this hike along this beautiful section of the river. It's National Trails Day in Connecticut, and our organization participates every year in this. As well as June
13th, my annual paddle trip on the Connecticut River, from Kings Island boat launch to the Bissell Ferry, 11 miles downriver. We get about 30 boats every year. Nice leisurely paddle, go past the mouth of the Scantic River, where it enters that South Windsor line. Just getting people out there and showing them what they have locally. They don't have to drive 2 hours to find it.
We've only got a little bit of time left. One of the things I did notice in viewing your guys' website was that you guys have a new mascot.
we do.
Yes.
We have Sir Wally Awesome was. We had a contest for naming the turtle. We have a turtle, a painted turtle, who's our mascot. And
it's a fiberglass. Painted turtle's a species. It's a fiberglass, physically painted turtle.
Yes, so SRWA, Sir Wally Awesome. And Wally will be making rounds to our events and hopefully into some fundraising campaigns where other people may want to borrow Wally for an event or some marketing type stuff.
Very good, gentlemen. I'd like to thank you both for coming and telling us about your efforts in maintaining the river. It's certainly been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
For Service Above Self, I'm Clark Mason, encouraging you to find a worthy cause and to lend a helping hand.